There are some verses that jump out of the sacred page. Years ago, in school days, at the age of about 13, I walked into the church, which was just above our house on the outskirts of Cardiff. It was an ancient medieval church, Llanerwg, and went back to about the 11th century and was well preserved, a very beautiful country church. And it was midday communion. I went in and quietly prayed and observed. It obviously was something which had a certain continuity with the period in which the church was erected. The celebration was still facing the east, and the church had not been damaged. Holy Communion was received kneeling, and there was an atmosphere of prayer and reverence there. But it was the state church, and at that time we were studying precisely the period of the Reformation in school, and already aware that there were differences in points of view, I wanted to get to the bottom of it. And I asked one or two questions while there. The good clergyman was a lovely man, very helpful, and he showed me one or two things, such as the piscina, the place for washing the hands. It was a place still preserved there in the old medieval church. And I was edified, but puzzled and confused. One thing that edified me a lot was what he did spontaneously when coming from the altar and going back to the sacristy, or as they call it, the vestry. He paused in his little procession and prayed, "Lord, make us worthy of the call whereunto we are called. Lord, make us worthy of the calling whereunto we are called." It wasn't part of the ritual, but it always remained with me, and he seemed to be living it very well. It's the verse we had today in the first reading, and we can take it with us. He fulfilled his call, but there is a mystery. What is the call of the Lord, and how are we to discern it? But one important thing was, at the age of 13, if there is a call, where does one go? I could see that they had many things which as Baptists we didn't have, and certainly an awareness of history which they retained very well. But were they actually fully what they were when that church was built? And was what was going on there exactly the same? About the same time, I walked into a Catholic church, which is actually a modern one, because they have to be. And there, the church was packed to overflowing, 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and it was the High Mass, still in Latin, incense, asperges, a huge choir, and everything, just a suburb of Cardiff. But there one really sensed, despite the fact that the church was new, that there was a great continuity, and it was the same thing. Another time, I went into the Eastern Orthodox Church in Cardiff about the same period, and there also one felt history standing still, the power of the centuries, and mystery and power. So I read and read, and I came across this passage in the Book of Common Prayer. It's in instruction at the end of the order of the administration of the Lord's Supper or Holy Communion. And it says this: whereas it is ordained in this office for the administration of the Lord's Supper that the communicants should receive the same kneeling, which order is well meant for a signification of our humble and grateful acknowledgement of the benefits of Christ therein given to all worthy receivers, and for the avoiding of such profanation and disorder in the Holy Communion as might otherwise ensue, yet lest the same kneeling should by any persons, either out of ignorance or infirmity, or out of malice and obstinacy, be misconstrued and depraved, it is hereby declared that thereby no adoration be intended or ought to be done, either unto the sacramental bread or wine there bodily received, or unto any corporal presence of Christ's natural flesh and blood. For the sacramental bread and wine remain still in their very natural substances, and therefore may not be adored, for that were idolatry, to be abhorred of all faithful Christians. And the natural body and blood of our Saviour Christ are in heaven, and not here, it being against the truth of Christ's natural body to be at one time in more places than one. When, bit by bit, I was moving towards Catholicism, my mother, who had quite a few Anglican vocations on her side of the family way back, hinted that it might be wiser not to go that far. Also, my two best friends were Anglicans, High Church actually, and they had sincere faith. Moreover, we had young Anglican clergymen who were good friends and very fervent. But I could see that the problem was not at all on that level, people and the way they do things, but on the Lord and the way that He does things. And if He's doing something, He's doing it. And if He's not, He's not. There is the rub. The Lord then had a way of getting through. I remember wanting clear light and walking into a Catholic church in the lunch hour, because it was very close to our school and always open. And in that state of wanting to know, browsing the CTS pamphlets at the back of the church and finding the life of the schoolboy saint, Dominic Savio, who had my age, roughly, at that time. And he had a vision. He had seen a dark, misty field, and then a pontiff with a bright lamp coming and dispelling the darkness and the mist. And he explained it to St. John Bosco, his spiritual father, and they both were given to understand its meaning, that the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church was about to be re-established among those dark satanic males. And so I knew, if one is giving one's life to the Lord, it has to be the Lord who is putting us where He wants and can use us with His own power. That matters. Let us get this straight. The church either is the church or isn't. And to waste energy throwing stones at humans within it and the way they do things is to miss completely the point. Jesus, what wilt thou have me to do?